It's the first time of today. To dream, believe. You are the strength, you're all I need. Oh, gonna give it a shot. Only one of me to shield you all from the enemy. You're a superhero. You're a superhero. Like you, be strong to hold the powers of the sun. To dream, believe in strength. Now I'm the only one, only one. Until I broke the rules, my life destroyed. Life destroyed. Until I walk awake, scream my mind, I shout, the ground shakes. How much can I take? My mind will break. Will it break? Can I take? Can I be your superhero? Superhero. Can I be your superhero? Superhero. Superhero.
Guess who's back? Back again. Yes, I am live right now. How y'all doing? My name is 12 Gauge. Welcome to my channel. Man, I was just jamming to that song and I was like, wow, that's an amazing song for the topic that I picked tonight. As you can see, it says Reclaim Your Thinking, Re-socialization Part 2. That means that I have a Part 1 in my library, so you can go and check that out if you like. If you noticed, I have different overlays and different kind of symbols at the top for this type of live stream. This isn't true crime related. Well, that's cool. She had a lot of good information on the Howard Bloom stuff, so I wish her well. So anyways, I'm going to get into this and I hope you enjoy it. If you don't come in to look at this, at least hit a like on the way out, because it's kind of different. It's not true crime related, so many people will not really appreciate it. But last time I did this, people enjoyed it, so I hope that you do as well. Anyways, my name is 12 Gauge. Welcome to my channel. Welcome to my channel. There's plenty of videos for you to look through whenever I'm not on, which is very seldom. I'm on pretty often because I have different types of variations of information to present. So tonight I'm going to talk about the stages of change. And if you guys are familiar with that at all, um, I hope you are, because it's pretty simple concept. But there's individuals that don't understand it. I'm gonna put on some music while I'm doing this. I hope it's not too loud because it's different. It's different than the true crime, so I can talk and listen to music and present stuff because people um are really asking a lot of questions. Let me turn this down. I'm not gonna put that song on for real. That's not too loud, is it? I hope not. Okay, the stages of change and the transition into the recovery from whether your life is going into a change of mindset, a change of understanding about things that are usually out of your control. We start at the very bottom. You see the individual with the question mark over his head? We're in the pre-contemplation stage where you're unaware of the problem. And you're kind of always shaking your head like, what's going on? What is going on? How come I constantly relive these moments? And then once you step up, you get into the contemplation stage, aware of the problem and that the desired behavior change. So at this point, you're contemplating, hey, understand what the problem is. I'm going to have to do something about it. And then you step up one more and you can see this guy with his hands in the air. He's preparing to change, intends to take the action, meaning that, boy, you're tired of it and you're going to take the action that it takes to do something about it. You're preparing for it. And then you jump up a step and there you are. You're taking the action. You're practicing the desired behavior, whatever that might be. And then the very top step is the maintenance stage. So at the very top, you're working to sustain the behavior change, whatever that might be. So there's some stages to changing your behavior, whether it be mild or very severe. But hopefully everybody makes it to the very top, which is the maintenance stage. And I wrote this down. It says pre-contemplation is a person who denies or fails to recognize the problem. Hey, that's not fat, it's muscle. Fails to recognize the problem. Contemplation, being on the fence, acknowledging the problem without being ready, change it. So what if my pants are tight? The ladies still love me? Preparation. Getting ready to change. All right, I'm ready to get motivated. Let me call Mary and make an appointment. The action, changing the behavior and actually doing it. Wow, eating healthy never seemed so easy. This plan Mary put together for me is brilliant. The maintenance phase, not falling off the wagon and living it. Eating healthy is just like brushing my teeth every day. If I don't do it, I feel gross. And then there's this phase where you decide, hey, I don't want to do this anymore. I'm going to terminate this thought pattern. And this is the behavior has been tamed and no longer possesses a threat. I'm a lean, mean muscle machine. So how many of you in chat, I see there's 2 of you, thank you for being here. How many of you believe that you could get it to the contemplation or determination or the action or determination phase of your recovery from whatever it is that you're trying to recover from. And it could be with anything. Doesn't necessarily have to be with drinking or drugging or any kind of maladaptive behavior. You just have to get to the changes, the stages of change, and get through there and get to the end result. When folks try to go directly to action too quickly without being ready for it, they often relapse or return to their bad habits as quickly as they vow to change. We then often beat ourselves up for being so weak, for not having any willpower, when in reality, change is a process. We need to change our mindset from one of immediate action and automatic success to one of progress in which we advance from one stage to the next. Sometimes we relapse or fall back into our old behavior and might have to revert to a previous stage of change and reevaluate. The trick is to get up, dust yourself off, get back on a healthy eating horse, and keep moving forward. You know how many people have tried to diet and weren't able to do it very long term? Have you ever set out to lose some weight and then when you started to realize, hey, I'm losing weight, things are going well, I need to continue this. And then you say, you know what? Today's a cheat day. I'm going to take a day off from this. Or the next day you say, I'm sore. I don't feel like doing this. And then before long, you haven't worked out in a week. And then guess what? Everything comes crawling back. The weight, the lethargic, motions of thinking, all kinds of stuff like that. So, I'm going to be talking about chemical use and behaviors associated with it. So, if you've never had issues with drugs or alcohol, or if you've known somebody that's had issues with drugs or alcohol, or currently has issues with drugs or alcohol, this might be for you. But if it isn't about drugs or alcohol, but it's about unhealthy behaviors, then put it with that because this can go with anything. Unfortunately, when I wrote this, it was about drugs and alcohol because I was writing this workbook for my practice. Okay, so try to be kind. It has been shown that children who are raised in families where chemical use is prevalent are more susceptible to become dependent on abusing chemicals. They say if you have a mom who drinks and a dad who drinks, guess what? 100% one of their kids is going to be a drinker or potentially an alcoholic. You have a mom who doesn't drink, you have a dad who drugs. 68% of whatever kid they have could end up becoming a drug addict. If it doesn't catch the initial child, it's going to skip a generation and grab the next one. It has also been researched that individuals who have physical or sexual abuse in childhood display this later on in adulthood. And we talk about that in true crime. We really do. We talk about how people are raised and what kind of outcome it plays a part in their lives. They're more likely to reenact this behavior by physically or sexually abusing others. And we talk about that as well because, whenever somebody has been sexually abused, you do one or two things. You either totally shut down from it or you become promiscuous and you find that it's normal. So you engage full throttle or you have shame based behaviors toward it. There are people that deal with shame based feelings most of their lives. It has been proven that many feel helpless, hopeless, and inadequate and disgusted with themselves. There are times when these individuals have trouble with developing healthy boundaries and finding intimacy. Issues go on and on. To get beyond shame, one must see it, accept it, and find healthy ways to move on from it. I'm asking you, chat, y'all be honest here. Have any of you ever experienced shame or guilt? Yes, this is helpful for procrastinating as well. Have any of you ever had shame and guilt? Any of you in chat over anything you've ever done in your life? Of course. We all have. Honestly, we all have. There's not one person who hasn't experienced shame or guilt. To get beyond shame, one must see it, accept it, and find healthy ways to move on from it. Children cannot change the facts of their family origin. Whether you were a part of a family of criminals, have a mother addicted to chemicals, or were an unwanted part of the family unit, these situations could have placed you as high risk for living a life of criminality or addiction, but it was not a given. It has been documented in history of many people that lived lives such as mentioned above and turned out to be driven, positive, and healthy in the lives they lead. You have to ask yourself after answering these questions in exercise one, what type of family were you a part of? Where or when did you decide to become the criminal minded or addicted individual? I'm not saying that you are, but if you have that type of person in your family, or if you yourself are that kind of mindset, when did you start feeling that way? Was it due to having a difficult upbringing, or what was it? Have you been able to pinpoint where you chose to go against the grain? Because as I've shown in other kind of streams that we've done, especially the other day, I was talking about how if you back in 1874, they did a study of six generations of two different types of families. The ones that were maladaptive, there seemed to be more arrests, murders. Um, they were homeless. They had a bunch of different things that went on with them. And the families that were pro social, there was a lot more positive outcomes. Presidents, deans of students, the list goes on and on. So I'm telling you, it doesn't really matter where you came from. You can overcome if you decide to. But what happens, what I'm talking about right now, is most of the time when people start off with their backs to the wall, so to speak, it's hard for them to keep moving forward and become successful because they're just living so many, so many issues from the family. Maybe you were the caretaker, maybe you ended up having to drop out of school to work or to take care of somebody or whatever. I mean, maybe somebody went to prison. Maybe your mom and dad divorced. Maybe they passed away. Something that enabled you to grow up faster than you had to. And therefore, you were behind everyone else because you had to stop the normal child growth and become adult minded. And sometimes that puts you behind. There's no shame in it. But there's a lot of individuals that never learned how to restart once they became adults. And so they've been struggling their whole lives. Okay. There are many, let's see where I'm at. Okay. You must ask yourself of the individuals you know who had the same lives as you lived and did not grow up to be criminals or part of supervision. Is it a given that most had it worse than others, but there is always someone that chose to live a responsible life? There are many new ways of changing. One of them is by setting healthy boundaries. So we're going to talk about boundaries. Boundaries are not walls. Many times in life, people think that if I set this wall with somebody, they're going to leave me alone. It's going to protect me. If I isolate from people, then it's gonna protect me. I'm gonna be okay. So I'm gonna teach you about healthy boundaries. Okay, give me a 10 if you're enjoying this so far. Number one, if you're kind of like I don't know, Gage. I don't know where we're going with this. When you think of boundaries, many can relate to it being an imaginary shield around you. It's your protection from the outside world. Only you can determine how comfortable you feel with your boundaries. Some closed people, like family members, get to come close to you when some people are only permitted up to 3 feet in diameter. You have to ask yourself, where did you get their boundaries from? Where did you learn them? Did the boundaries that were learned confusing? There are 4 boundaries that we're talking about that are physical, emotional, sexual, and spiritual. There are people with no boundaries, broken boundaries, closed off boundaries, and lastly, healthy boundaries. There are people that have grown up with boundary issues. Listed below are some typical boundary violations. So I'm going to teach you about these things because sometimes people don't know what a boundary is. They don't understand how it helps them to have these boundaries. A physical boundary violation would be standing too close to a person without their permission. Have you ever been in a grocery store, in a convenience store, or even on the sidewalk, or in a movie theater where there's all these empty seats and somebody comes and plops down next to you? That's too much, bro. You're doing too much. Or you're in the grocery store and there's nobody behind you, but all of a sudden, bam, there's somebody breathing down your neck, and you're like, what's really going on here? But you don't say anything a lot of times because you don't want to start a ruckus. You don't want to start a confrontation. And that's a broken boundary right there. I can't stand that when people walk up on me and they're too close. Like you can literally feel them breathing on your neck. Or, like I just said, if you're in a movie theater and there's all these empty seats, and this person comes and plops down next to you, you're like, what? What? What's really going on here? Touching a person without his or her permission, that is a crime as well. There are a lot of people that aren't touchy feely people. They don't like to be touched. So a lot of times you have to tell people, hey, I'm not a hugger. I'm not a touchy feely person. I'll shake your hand. I'll do the fist bump, whatever. But I'm not all about all that other stuff. Getting into a person's personal belongings and living space, such as one's purse, wallet, mail, closet, etc. So it is a boundary violation when somebody wants to go through your phone. When somebody wants to look through your purse or look at your phone and see who you're talking to, look at your messages or look at this or that and the other, opening your mail without your permission. Or let me just walk. Y'all ever had a friend? I haven't, but I've seen other people do this. Have you ever had a friend that walked in and they instantly started walking around your house and looking at stuff and picking up stuff and even maybe picking up your mail or a book that you have there and they start looking through it without even asking? That's a boundary violation. Oh, I got to read this one. Ever been in a YMCA shower? Old me got naked and bent over 5 inches away from you. Wow. It wasn't me. Oh, an old man. Wow. Terrible. That's terrible. I would have never went back to that shower. Not allowing a person to have privacy or violating a person's right to privacy. We all deserve the right to privacy. You should not ever feel like you don't have any privacy whatsoever. Here's another one. This is a big one. This is one of my pet peeves. Exposing others to a physical illness due to you having a contagious disease. How many times are you in a restaurant, are you in Walmart, Target, wherever you are, and there's somebody just hacking and hacking and hacking, and they're not covering their mouths, they're not coughing into their elbows, they're not doing any of that. This was so bad. This was so bad during the pandemic. It drove me crazy. Or people that used to wear their mask beneath their nose. Like, bro, do you realize what you're doing? You're not doing anything. You're defeating the purpose here. Smoking around non smokers in an identified non smoking area. Have you ever been around? I don't know that so many people smoke cigarettes anymore, but I'm pretty sure they do. But have you ever, like, been in front of a business or something and you stepped out to get some air, or you went to, go outside and chill while you're waiting on somebody, and there's a big old sign that says no smoking within 25 feet of the entrance. And there's somebody always smoking right there in front of the entrance. So everybody that walks in has to go through a big old cloud of smoke when you could be smoking down there by the ash can, wherever it is. I'm not meaning to hurt anybody. Everything's all in fun. No, it's not. It's not. Do not unsub. I'm not talking about any of that. So I'm just giving examples. Emotional boundary violations, yelling and screaming. So if somebody starts yelling and screaming at you, that's a boundary violation emotionally. Name calling. How many times in these chats do you see people, grown adults, calling other grown adults names or yelling and screaming at their chats? Creators screaming at their subs or ridiculing a person even. I've seen that. I've been in a chat and I've seen creators ridiculing a person for not believing the same way that they believe or even lying. All these things are emotional boundary violations. We see these all day long. Breaking a commitment. If you tell me you're going to be here 10 minutes to the hour and you show up 10 minutes after the hour, you broke that commitment. I got to hold you accountable. Patronizing a person. Telling a person how he or she should be or what he or she should do. Negative control. And that's what I mentioned in another live. I said you should never tell somebody what they need to do. What, sometimes people tell you, come on, y'all, don't leave because of the mask comment. It was an example, it was a joke. So, you ever dislike when somebody tells you, you need to do this or you should do that? That's negative control. So, if you want to take any of these suggestions and do something different, you might set a boundary with them. Being sarcastic. You ever have those sarcastic friends that can never be serious? There's nothing wrong with having laughter. But sarcasm is anger wrapped around humor. So a sarcastic person is a very angry individual, but they play it off by using humor as their approach. So you don't kind of think, hey, that person's kind of a jackhole, you know? Shaming a person. I see that in these lives on these YouTube streets. And here's some sexual boundary violation that I don't know if y'all see in public or you might see at your workplace or even at your home. Touching a person sexually without their permission. This is also a crime. Not negotiating when, where, and how to engage in a sexual activity. Like, it's a sexual boundary violation if you want to get down in your backseat of your car in the city park. I mean, that's just not cool. There's a lot of kids, and I understand that when the urge comes, you want to feed that urge, but that's a no no. Demanding unsafe sexual practices. If somebody says, hey, no glove, no love, that means you don't try to negotiate what you're willing to do or not willing to do with manipulating the fact of trying to get sex in the process. Leaving pornography visible where those who do not wish to see it or should see it may see it. You know, being a bachelor for a lot of years, sometimes I've had roommates that would subscribe to magazines, or maybe I might subscribe to a magazine that was kind of risque and I'd forget about and just lay it around on the coffee table or wherever. I might keep it in the bathroom or whatever. Okay? It's a sexual boundary violation if you have company and you know that this is laying out and you're just doing it to try to get a rise from the other person. Come on. Be respectful. Exposing oneself to others without their consent, that's a crime. Staring or looking at another person lustfully. Voyeurism without his or her permission. I see this a lot in the gym. I don't know if y'all go to the gym and what kind of clothing you work out in, but you should be able to wear whatever you want within reason. I mean, if you're a guy, cover stuff up. No other guy wants to see all that. If you're a female, too little is too little. I understand you want to be comfortable, but there's times when you need to cover up, because it's distracting sometimes. You might disagree, and that's fine. Um, so let's get to the spiritual boundary violation. Not giving people option to choose their own higher power, pushing religious or spiritual literature on people without their consent, being made feel guilty to become a part of a spiritual fellowship without your own belief system. Many people who grew up in an addictive or an abusive home most of the time are confused at their boundaries. As stated earlier, they might have been physically, emotionally, or sexually abused as a child. Due to this, the boundary areas are not set and even identified most of the time. In these families, it may not have been okay to set boundaries. There may have been name calling, put downs, or even constant verbal recourse. So you learn in these families that that's normal for you. So so you think that it's normal to react that way with everybody. And it's really not, because some people are going to be offended by that. We learn how to set limits with self and others, and this is a way to gain self-worth. Individuals with healthy boundaries are flexible. These individuals are able to eventually develop intimacy and closeness in relationships. Also, they learn how to be more distant when the situation calls for it. Okay, so I'm going to stop right there. We'll probably pick up there next time. I'm not going to be reading for the whole hour, whatever, however long I'm going to be online. Um, is there any questions that y'all have about what I went over? Is there anything that you'd like more clarification on? Because there's individuals that have physical boundary violations all the time, emotional, sexual, and spiritual. I mean, and you don't think nothing of it because like the rest of the world goes along with it. So you don't want to be the one that they want to go against the grain. You know what I mean? Like, you don't want to be called a prude, or you don't want to be, called something that's not very nice because you have moral values and things of that nature and other people don't. Or maybe people just get too friendly, I'm just playing, I'm just this. I know most of y'all who work with the public, you probably have to take sexual harassment courses probably every year, every 6 months, because that's a big one in the workplace. There's a lot of sexual harassment that goes on. But I'm telling you that whenever you're trying to set a boundary, it's always okay for you not to be perfect the first time. Okay? And this is usually how you do it. This is how you bring it up until you get comfortable or you get your own approach. You can say, when you do this, I feel like this. I'd really like if you stopped doing this. And then if they laugh at you, then you can say, see what I mean? You don't take anything I say serious. No, don't say that. But you can use that as another teaching moment. You can say, no, I'm really being serious. When you do this, it makes me feel like this, and that's not okay. Because that's setting a boundary. And you're identifying what it is that you don't want them to do anymore. And you're also identifying how it makes you feel. So all of that is validation for your own self and healthy well-being. Sexual crap at work is really difficult. Do you have to deal with that? If you're on the spectrum, understanding social cues and healthy boundaries are even more difficult. I'm not very knowledgeable of people on the spectrum, Kim, so I don't know when I approach somebody like that. I guess if they're on the spectrum, they're very volatile, or they really, like you said, they don't understand social clues. Maybe you don't want to be identified as awkward. Maybe underlying issues exist, not different from own. I can't read that over there. Over boisterous. Yes, exactly. We have protocols in place how to deal with inappropriate behavior. Exactly. Everyone at work where I work is good. They keep to themselves even if they're married. That's how, there's nothing wrong. Thank you so much. I hope your fur baby gets better. I read your post earlier. I appreciate you being here. There's nothing wrong with being friends at work. There's nothing wrong with being cordial. But like I said in the last live, you should never be so close that the lines are blurred. When people start, you know, making comments about you being work husband or work wife or work girlfriend or work boyfriend, that's too much. Y'all give me your opinion on workplace behavior. Do you think that it's hard to set a boundary at the workplace if somebody's overstepping that boundary? Because most of the time they say, oh, I'm just playing. I'm just playing. Is that okay? To have a manager who would sneak up behind me all the time when I was on the computer, he scared the crap out of me. Or a family member says anything. Yep, exactly. We all know you spend darn near a third of our lives with these people. They cool. Boundaries are needed. Yes, indeed. And it's not okay. It's not. I work at a health club. Nice. I bet you do see a lot of it. I bet you do see a lot of that. You know, for whatever reason, people think if you tell them, hey, I got a boyfriend, I'm married, a lot of times people take that for you meaning to try harder. Like, try harder. Okay. So you're with somebody, so you told me you're not available. So in my mind, that means try harder. No, it doesn't. It means, hey, back off. Sometimes in the medical field, it can be very difficult. Yeah, I've I've worked in the medical field early on in my career, and you're right about that. We used to have doctors that messed around with the nurses, and vice versa, all the way around. And it would just, you could see it. And the reason it's not okay is because it makes for a very awkward work environment. Like if you're talking, because there was this girl that was my friend, and we worked the same shift and we were the same position, this and that and the other. But this doctor was always hitting on her, you know? And he would get jealous. Like if her and I were talking, he'd shoot me the dirtiest looks. And I mean, he was an older, not older, but at that point I was 28 and he was like probably in his late 30s, early 40s. And, he'd shoot me the go to hell looks. And she was nice. She was just a nice person. She just had, good morals. She was a nice person. She was never going to tell him, hey, back off, buddy, or, none of that. But she would make it known that she wasn't interested, but it didn't stop him. It didn't stop him at all. Her car broke down. He wanted to buy her a car. She needed a place to live, blah, blah, blah. He wanted to co-sign on an apartment. It's like sometimes people just, I understand being nice, but if you want to pay off because you're nice, or you understand that something has to be given in order for this to be given, then it's not being nice. You're doing it with a price. You're attaching something to it that a lot of people should never have to lower themselves to get. It's, the idea of a weekend friends or family friends need that nature overbearing behavior on the job is not easy to manage. You're right. I had that happen to me also as a nurse. A prominent surgeon said he wanted to get into my drawers, and I was standing in front of the desk. Then he winked. Did you report him? See, that's another thing because retaliation is a thing. And a lot of times you feel that if I report this doctor, he's a doctor, I'm a nurse, there should be no professional differentiation there. But in your mind you might say, if I report him, who's gonna believe me? He's a doctor, I'm a nurse, they're gonna think that I'm just out to get his money or whatever. It's just a terrible, terrible situation, you know? Um, I'm sorry to hear that, Kim. That's awful. I mean, but I've seen it. I've seen it in the medical field. I've seen it, in the grocery stores, you know, the managers and the cashiers, yeah, it could be the patients as well. I don't know about the patient, but I mean, I could see how that could be something though. Yeah, exactly. I could see how the patients could be a problem because, not so much now, but when I was younger, and if a fine nurse came in, you'd be like, "Hey, how you doing?" That kind of corny stuff, and you'd be like, "Man, look at those scrubs! Wow!" You know that type of stuff. Not being a pervert right now, but when I was younger, I was young, dumb, young and dumb. Yeah, the patients can be overbearing, or even their family members. So you have to you have to be very mindful to be firm, fair, and consistent. You got to set those boundaries. Oh yeah, I used to be a nurse aide back in the day, and there's not only dirty old men, there's dirty old women too. You lean over too far and they get a little handsy. You're like, whoa, whoa, hey, hey. I'm just trying to help you in the wheelchair. Just trying to help you into the wheelchair. I can't believe I'm sharing this. That's how comfortable I am with y'all. Um, But yeah, sometimes people get too handsy, when they're trying to help them. But you gotta be firm, fair, and consistent, and you gotta be comfortable enough with yourself to say, I'm gonna be able to stand my ground because I'm not gonna put up with this. My daughter take care of people in nursing home, dementia area. She comes home telling me some doozies. Oh yeah. One time when I was a nurse's aide, because I was going into the medical field, when I first started college, and I worked at this state school, and they had a bunch of MR clients and um, mental health clients, and I made it all the way through orientation. Got put on the floor, as they say. I worked night, so I was folding clothes, all that good stuff. First thing in the morning, all of a sudden the patient start waking up. I don't know why I'm sharing this, but anyways, this guy, he was probably, I would say, 4'10", and he comes out of his room, and everybody was telling me, "Hey, you got to be careful. You can't turn your back on this dude." I said, "All right. I don't know why they're telling me this, but you can't turn your back on him." And then all of a sudden, I was putting some clothes up in somebody's room, and I walk out, and I hear somebody start yelling, and I'm like, "What the?" I'm looking around, and this dude comes running down the hall. Right, he's butt ass naked. I shit you not. If you're listening to this on a TV or something, you have children around, you might mute it. That man came down the hall, and I could see why they were telling me to not turn my back on him. You know, he was running full speed, bro. Full speed with that. It was on. It was morning time, and it was ready to go. So yeah, that's my story. And needless to say, I think I worked there 2 weeks, and I just couldn't do it. I just couldn't do it. I've never been able to work on the mental health side of stuff because it just too, I don't know if I can relate to it, or just too it's just too wild for me. You know what I mean? It was like I can't understand how somebody could be completely normal 1 minute and then all of a sudden go into psychosis. You know? It doesn't I can't get that concept. And it's just overwhelming to me because I can't help them. You know what I mean? Like, you can't, unless you're a professional and you understand what's going on, and or you're a nurse or something like that, or a doctor, and you understand that level of psychosis. To a normal person, they don't get it. They just think they might be faking, or it's not real. But it's no, I couldn't work in that level right there. I couldn't. So I decided to work with the drug addicts and alcoholics, you know, and I just sometimes when I left there, I felt like I was psycho and they were normal. Yeah, or you can relate to their problems more than they can. They're like counseling you at the smokers table. You're like, so yeah, she's good at taking care of them. She said they just like taking care of young kids. She had a couple of them who try to escape the hall. Yep. It was so upsetting to her that I stole this baby. I ended up having to leave. You know, it's it's wild. And I know that we kind of got off topic. I got into my storytelling, but when it comes to setting boundaries with people, you know, you have to be firm with your belief systems, and you can't hold some people accountable and then play with other people and let them get away with it. You can't be wishy-washy. You have to be consistent with everybody. One guy was convincing me. He was communicating with one of the lizards we have here in Florida. After 8 hours of listening to that, I almost believed him. Yeah, it's easy. It's easy to do. I walked in with the charge nurse, and I walked down the hall because this girl was screaming. She was probably 12 years old, and she was screaming at the top of her lungs. And we walked in, and I'm looking, and the nurse comes in, and she's like, they've stole my shoes. They stole my shoes. I can't step down. It's burning. It's fire. It's fire. They stole my shoes. Get my shoes. Get my shoes. And she had her shoes on, okay? And I turned to the nurse and I said, well, get her shoes. And the nurse was my friend. And she told me, she said, don't ever do that again. She said, do not feed into the psychosis. See, at that point, I just like, no, I can't do this. I can't work with people that are, and nothing against them at all. I'm just saying that, off when somebody's not medicated, they go into that psychosis. Man, it's hard to understand their way of thinking. And I don't know if any of y'all can relate to that, but it's terrible. It's terrible. Yes, exactly. And it was hard to understand exactly what was going on because she was 12 years old. She had her legs on her, up in the bed, and she was like, she was about to fall into some lava or something. You know what I mean? So it was just too much for me at that level. I was like, plus I couldn't pass anatomy and physiology and microbiology. I took it 3 times and I couldn't pass them. And I'm like, okay, this is it. This is it for me. I need to go another route. I can't keep spending money on a class that is so difficult for me. I can't really comprehend what's going on. So I went into the mental, cognitive part of helping people. But anyways, when it comes to setting those emotional boundaries, if somebody yells at you, like I said, it's not okay. Never okay. Even if they come back with saying, I was just playing. I was just playing. Because what you put up with, what you allow, becomes a habit. If I had to choose, I'd rather my mind go than my body. I imagine losing my mind would be funner than losing my body. I want to ask the chat a question. If I would have never told you that I was a therapist from the first time you started listening to me, would you have been able to tell that that was the line of work that I do? Based on anything that I do, like the way I speak, the way I break things down, would you have been able to tell that I was a therapist? Yes, we would know. How so? I've always been curious of that because I wondered that when I started the channel. I was wondering if people would be able to tell if I was in the therapy or the social services field. Yeah, I thought you were more detective work, very thorough, of course. Yeah, I teach you and you listen. Yeah, words give many clues. because I listen. Yeah, if I only would have had those listening schools when I was dating certain people, they always used to tell me, "You never listen to what I'm saying." I was thinking that you were likely a criminal psychologist or a profiler. Actually, that's what I wanted to do. That's what I wanted to do out of high school. I wanted to be a criminal profiler. And it's interesting to me that so many years later, I'm actually getting my criminal justice degree, in all this stuff. It took all these years, but you know what? It's something that I never gave up on. Um, and that's what I want to pass on to you guys. I mean, I'm not trying to keep it all therapy the whole time or even any of that stuff, but I want to tell you guys that it's never too late to go after your dreams. It's never too late to go get what you think you want to do. I mean, if if you want a different career, if you feel that you've always wanted to be a painter, good grief, be a painter, or be whatever it is that you've always wanted to do, and you always felt that you can never do it because of this or because of that. As long as you're realistic and at least you tried, you can tell yourself, look, at least I gave it my 100%, and at least I have no regrets. At least I have no regrets. I could tell from your point of view or perspective that you present things. These things must be either something you're interested or something you're experiencing. Thank you. I've always wanted to type as fast as Heather. If you're not learning, you're not living. Always stays on my mind. Yes, indeed. I can't stress that enough to you guys that are in the chat. And if you're listening, if you're not in the chat, you know what? Don't let age or don't let fears keep you from doing something that you've always wanted to do. You only get this once. It's not a dress rehearsal. Go after whatever it is that you want to do. Don't let money, don't let time, don't let, work, because one day you're going to be, you know, living in, you're going to be living your last days. And are you going to be sitting there going, man, I wish I would have. I wish I would have. And then, it's going to be too late. I didn't ever want to go back to school because I don't like it. I mean, but I'm making straight A's and I'm in awe about that. I'm like, what? You know, I graduated 61 of 63, 61 of the class of 63, and that is no lie. It just never been something that I've ever desired to do. But it's like now I read a lot. I'm constantly feeding my mind. I'm trying to learn as much as I can about a lot of different topics, and I suggest that maybe you do the same. They say that successful people read a book a week. All the successful people, they read a book a week on how to continue to be successful. And I'm talking about things that feed your mind, not fiction, not nonfiction, stuff like that. So maybe you guys can, do an inventory on yourself. Yes, and journal. Do an inventory on yourself and see exactly what you want to do, where you want to be. Before I close this out, I did start a membership thing. I don't even know what the hell that is, but it was bugging me to complete my membership on a monetization or whatever. So I don't know what I did. I don't know what I set up, So if y'all want a membership and you subscribe to it, um, I was thinking that maybe one of the membership perks could be maybe a one-on-one with me if you're having any kind of problems, as long as it's substance abuse related, or you're being affected by somebody who has substance abuse issues, or very mild life coaching stuff. I think that would be one of the perks I could do for you guys. I don't know. So I don't even know where that button is. I don't know. I was doing it so fast today. I was just like putting emojis on there or whatever, and I was like, whatever, I'm just trying to get through this. But anyways, if you find the membership button or you find a way to do that and you want to subscribe, I'm sure as time goes on, I'll set up a way for you guys to have perks, as they call them. And I'm still working with Jeff H to see if Friday night we're gonna do the music stuff. He hasn't really committed yet, but as soon as he commits, I will post it on the community tab. And I have new overlays for that as well. And get this, I want to give Jeff a shout out for this. Get this. He played Dust in the Wind, right? Well, this morning I wake up and I checked my email, and there's a copyright for Dust in the Wind. So Jeff played it so accurately that I got a copyright on that. So if you watch that video again, that part is muted out just for that, not because I don't like how Jeff plays, but just want to give Jeff a shout out for that. He did such a great job, and he's a good guitar player. So hopefully he'll be able to spare some time on Friday night so we can have a good time up in here. Anyways, do you guys have any questions, any kind of comments before I wind this down a little bit? Because I've gone 1 hour and, Well, Kim, thank you so much. Thank you so much. I don't know where these things are going, but thank you so much. I'm so naive when it comes to the super stickers and all that stuff. I am naive to all that. Hey, did y'all like my text message notification? Wasn't that awesome? Also, guys, if you are in an area where it's 100 degrees or hotter, or it's humid and hot, be sure you stay hydrated, because heat exhaustion and heat stroke is a real thing. It is a real thing. So be sure that you guys stay hydrated. Um, and you try to stay motivated to do the best thing that you can do in your life, whatever that be. Don't let anybody keep you from your dreams. Don't let anybody stifle your ability to want to better yourself in any way whatsoever. Thank you, Jeff. Yes, exactly. And to my nurses in the chat, thank you so much for what you do, and all the rest of you that have jobs where you're working with the public, or you're serving the public, or even if you're listening to the public, or any kind of job whatsoever that you do. Thank you for your service, because I know it's not easy out there, especially during these times, to deal with people and their attitudes and their mouths and everything else that you deal with. That's part of the reason that I'm doing this, is because I want to give you insight on some things to be looking for, so you can not lose your job because you lose your temper. Not lose, not lose your temper, not lose your cool. Don't get rode up or anything like that. That's one of the reasons why I'm doing this. So I hope you guys do understand the validation of all of this. It's for you guys. Without you, there is no me. So I do have a live scheduled for Saturday night. It's going to be different than the Idaho 4. I'm not doing Idaho 4 this week. It's called Missing. I'm gonna dabble in the Sebastian Rogers case. I'm gonna go back to the beginning without all the drama, without all the family stuff, without all that. We're gonna go back. Of those of you that come in here, I want you guys to understand that we're gonna go back in time to the case to review what the case was. I'm gonna go over missing people and the procedure that goes along with that, and we're going to kind of learn exactly what happens when somebody goes missing. The law enforcement side, the private investigator side, stuff like that. We're going to break it down just like we do with other things. So I hope that you enjoy that, and I hope that you do show up on Saturday night. I think I'm going to have to reschedule with Swamp, but I was going to be on her show on Saturday morning at 11, but I have some other obligations. So it might be later, maybe after lunch or something like that. So you guys, you know what time it is, right? Does anybody know what I say at the end of my lives? Anybody but Jeff. Anybody but Jeff. What do I say at the end of my lives? Right before I sign off, what do I say? Oh, yes. Maestro. Cue the music. Cue the music. All right, guys. Y'all have an awesome night. Have the awesome rest of the week. Stay safe out there. Stay vigilant of your surroundings and try to understand. You only get this once. Do it the best of your ability. There's no wrong answers. See y'all later.